What's going on, guys? It is International Fight Week this week for UFC, and we got Pat here once again. So this is coming up on a Saturday, right? Why don't you tell us a little bit what we can expect from this big pay-per-view?
All right, so big pay-per-view. We got 2 title fights, 3 champions. How the fuck's that happen, you might ask? Well, we got the first real super fight in quite some time in the UFC. We have light heavyweight champion Daniel Cormier versus current heavyweight champion Stipe Miocic. And I gotta say, it's a hell of a fight. It's the most decorated heavyweight champion in UFC history versus arguably the best light heavyweight champion in UFC history as well. Depends on whether or not you want to insert John Jones into that conversation. He has beat Cormier twice, but when you get caught in drug tests multiple times, one has to start to wonder how legitimate your legacy can be in that situation.
Indeed, indeed. Are there any other big title fights on the card?
Yeah, we got Max Holloway versus Brian Ortega for the featherweight title, which to me is one of the best fights that's been on the schedule in quite some time. Max Holloway, of course, beat Jose Aldo twice in a row.
I was very impressed with the last fight he was in, too.
Yeah.
It looked really good.
Yeah, and I mean, what more can you ask from somebody than to beat the consensus best featherweight of all time twice in a row? One of the best pound-for-pound fighters on pretty much everybody's list, and he beat him twice. And now he's facing Brian Ortega. He was originally supposed to face Frankie Edgar a few months ago. He got injured. Frankie Edgar decided to take a fight against a real good, undefeated up-and-comer named Brian Ortega. Brian Ortega stopped Frankie Edgar for the first time in Frankie's career. Uppercut, knocked him out, or TKO eventually, and it's just super impressive. And now Brian Ortega versus Max Holloway. So we'll see how it goes. It's a really interesting fight. I think Brian Ortega is by far the best jiu-jitsu practitioner in that division and may very well be the best jiu-jitsu practitioner in the UFC at this moment. But Max Holloway is an animal. He is just a relentless, well-rounded force. He just does not stop coming forward. He throws punches and bunches, just non-stop combinations of strikes, and man, is it going to be a good fight.
Now, why do they call it International Fight Week? Is this outside the country they're doing these fights, or what's the reason for them calling it that?
I think it's the same reason that the NFL calls the Super Bowl champions the world champions, just because it sounds better. I mean, they have fighters from all over the world, and they air all this stuff all over the world. Thursday night is the Hall of Fame induction. Friday night they're doing there's a fight card on cable. I think it's on Fox Sports 1. There's the Ultimate Fighter season, 75 finale, which is also the last season of the Ultimate Fighter, most are speculating. And then Saturday was the big pay-per-view. And I think they just do that because they have a big fan expo. So they throw a giant convention in Vegas, and it's a whole event, which is kind of cool. I'm planning on going at some point. But
well, it all sounds like good stuff, and I'll definitely at least be trying to catch that Ultimate Fighter. Always good to see the up and coming guys trying to get that UFC contract.
Yeah, definitely.
And as for the pay-per-view, I mean, it looks like they got a stacked card, a lot of nice fights.
Yeah. Not only are the 2 title fights, but there's some other really good fights. Francis Ngannou versus Derek Lewis. Francis Ngannou, who recently fought for the heavyweight titles. 2 dudes who are just giant, heavy-handed heavyweights, so that's definitely not a fight you want to miss. As well as I believe on the undercard is Paul Felder versus Mike Perry, which is my bet for fight of the night. Just 2 dudes that love to strike, love to throw down, and it's a great fight card, and it's going to be a real fun night of fights.
Well, Francis Ngannou made pretty short work of his last opponent, right? So it's going to be interesting to see what happens next time around.
Yeah, his last opponent before the title shot. So he he got in the UFC and just ran through people in terrifying fashion. He punched Alistair Overeem so hard that he turned into a Pez dispenser. and then he ran into Stipe Miocic. And Stipe Miocic was just not having it, which is why he is still the reigning champion and the most decorated UFC heavyweight champion of all time. And Stipe took the shots, dished out his own, took him down, and really exposed a lot of holes in Francis Ngannou's game. So it'll be real interesting to see whether Derek Lewis, who isn't typically someone who goes for a takedown and likes to control position and grapple more to win his fights, he tends to be similar to Ngannou, where he likes to throw heavy shots and just stand up and kind of duke it out. So it'll be real interesting to see which way each of these guys goes and who comes out on top.
Well, it's just so crazy though how like you can be that guy that gets like the knockout in like 6 seconds, and then the very next fight you're getting your ass beat. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I mean, but that's MMA. That's the sport with the 4-ounce gloves, man. One punch can end it at any time for any person. It doesn't matter. Case in point, Brian Ortega knocking out Frankie Edgar. Frankie Edgar has been he's a lightweight champion. Went down a weight class, has fought for the title multiple times. Beat some of the best fighters in history, beat BJ Penn twice, never been stopped in 20-plus fights in his career, maybe 30-plus, I'm not sure. And then Brian Ortega knocks him out with an uppercut, like for the first time ever. It's with those tiny gloves and how quick and how hard some of these guys can hit, you're always one punch away from a quick end to your night.
Well, I just got to say this upcoming pay-per-view should be a hell of a night, and hope you guys enjoyed the preview. Thanks for joining us once again, Pat. And yeah, guys, looking forward to this Saturday, International Fight Week. LitTube, let's do it.